awarded the sannyas ashram, then instead of staying at home, they will leave the home and stay outside the village in a hut or a place, and someone will bring them their prashadam. Ah, somebody's so that's kutichak. Bahudak. Bahudak is the second stage where the person thinks, well, okay, well, why should people bring me my food? I'll go, and they'll go door to door in the village or any place and beg alms. And of course, when they beg alms, they'll also give spiritual enlightenment to people if they're ready to hear it, and sometimes even if they're not. Then Parivrajak Acharya means the sannyasi thinks, why be so concerned about that? So they'll go everywhere and preach the message of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Parivrajak Acharya, always going everywhere as an acharya. And then finally, this Paramahansa stage is the highest stage of sannyas, where one sees everything in relation to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and all living entities as his servitors. So Madhavendra Puri was here on this Paramahansa stage. So he wasn't begging from door to door as a Bahudak might, or as some other sannyasi might. And he was doing this at Ajagaravriti. So it says here that Ajagaravriti means that like a python. And the python, usually they don't go fast. They're really big snakes, and they wait. And if a rat or something comes nearby, then they go. Then they eat it. But not they don't have to go out. They don't go chasing after animals or food for their maintenance. So same thing with someone who's a Paramahansa. They don't go looking for begging or looking for food. They're satisfied with whatever comes of its own accord. We were speaking. There was a Srimad Bhagavatam class recently where it said that Sudama Vipra would live by begging. Well, according to the Srimad Bhagavatam, actually that wasn't correct. He was accepting whatever came, and because his only interest was to beg for the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He wasn't begging for other things. And his wife went and begged, but he didn't beg. So Lord Chaitanya's prayer is there. Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam va jagadisha kamaye mama janamani janamanishware bhavatad bhakti rahoitu ki tvaye. Who knows the translation?
I know, Almighty Lord, I do not desire any wealth, nor do I desire any beautiful woman, nor do I desire any number of followers. I simply want your closest devotional service, birth after birth.
Yes. Na dhanam, no wealth, na janam, no followers, no sundarim kavitam, no wonderful or attractive, smart partners. All I want is janamani shvade, birth after birth, bhavadat bhakti rahaitikitva, your unconditional service. Yeah, so that was the prayer. So Sudama was in that stage, even though he was a Brahmin. Sometimes Brahmins may beg, just like within the Pandavas. After they escaped the house of the burnt house, or they call the house of lack, they disguised themselves as Brahmins and were living by begging for some time. But Sudama wasn't, and Madhavendra Puri wasn't. So then another point here is that Nidrahara Vikhari Kadi Vijito. That's the second line. It goes, first one is Sankhya Purvaka Nama Gana Natibi. This is from the Sadgoshami Ashtakam of Srinivasacharya, saying that the 6 Goswamis were chanting and offering obeisances in a fixed number of times. So sometimes it said, well, I'm not really so much concerned with numbers. It's really important the quality of my service is important. Well, that's nice too. Yes, They're not exclusive. Numbers should be there and quality should be there. They're not exclusive. So the 6 Goswamis were also doing numbers, a certain number of rounds and obeisances every day, reading the Srimad Bhagavatam every day, but also nidrahara. And by doing so, by doing that devotional service, they became conquered over sleep and eating, all which are just the emblems of material desire. Another name for Arjun is Gudakesh. You know, Gudakesh means he conquered sleep as a devotee of Krishna. So this is consistent with the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam, as you probably know. Vasudevi Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojata Janiyatu Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayada Haitukam. By engaging in devotional service to Vasudev, Krishna, one develops very quickly. Janiyatu Ashu Vairagyam. Janiyatu means born very quickly. Ashu, quickly. Vairagyam, detachment. Jnanam, and knowledge. So Krishna consciousness, spiritual life can be measured to the degree that we are free from material attraction, not falsely posing as being free, but actually being free. One remains a humble, meek mendicant engaged in the service of the Lord, and it's not just by holding back, but how does one become free from material desires? By engaging in Krishna consciousness. Brahma bhuta prasanatma nasochati nakachati samas sarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labate param. Devotional service, it begins on that spiritual platform, not hankering, not lamenting. Bhagavad Gita. Okay. Prema mrite tripta kshuddha trishna nahi badhe Thir ichha hoila tahe mane aparadhe. A Paramahansa like Madhavendra Puri is always satisfied in the loving service of the Lord. Material hunger and thirst cannot impede his activities. When he desired to taste a little sweet rice offered to the deity, he considered that he had committed a great offense by desiring to eat what was being offered. An offense, no great offense, by desiring to eat what was being offered to the deity. Purport. It is advisable that food being offered to the deity be covered when taken from the kitchen to the deity room. In that way, others may not see it. Those who are not accustomed to following the advanced regulative principles may desire to eat the food, and that is an offense. Therefore, no one should be given a chance to even see it. However, when it is brought before the deity, it must be uncovered. Seeing the food uncovered before the deity, Madhavendra Puri desired to taste a little of it so he could prepare a similar sweet rice for his Gopal. Madhavendra Puri was so strict, however, that he considered this to be an offense. Consequently, he left the temple without saying anything to anyone. The Paramahansa is therefore called Vijita Shadgun. He must conquer the 6 material qualities, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Matsarya, and Kshuddha Trishna. Lust, anger, greed, illusion, enviousness, and hunger and thirst.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
You have a comment or question? Yeah.
I'll make her co-host so she can share her screen.
Oh, okay.
Hare Krishna, Visnugada. Sorry.
That's okay. We like to hear the Bengali from you.
I'm not sure why I'm not able to make her co-host.
I got it.
Okay.
We're good now.
Thank you. গ্রামের শূন্য হাটে বসি করেন কীর্তন এথা পূজারি করাইল ঠাকুরে শয়ন।
Madhavendra Puri left the temple and sat down in the village marketplace, which was vacant. Sitting there, he began to chant. In the meantime, the temple priest laid the deity down to rest. Purport. Although Madhavendra Puri was not interested in eating and sleeping, his interest in chanting the Mahamantra was as acute as if he were an aspiring transcendentalist rather than a Paramahamsa. This means that even in the Paramahamsa stage, one cannot give up chanting. Haridas Thakur and the Goswamis were all engaged in chanting a fixed number of rounds. Therefore, chanting on beads is very important for everyone, even though one may become a Paramahamsa. This chanting can be executed anywhere, either inside or outside the temple. Madhavendra Puri even sat down in a vacant marketplace to perform his chanting. As stated by Srinivasa Acharya in his prayers to the Goswamis, Nama Gana Natibhi. A Paramahansa devotee is always engaged in chanting and rendering loving service to the Lord. Chanting the Lord's holy names and engaging in his service are identical. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.23, there are 9 kinds of devotional service: hearing, Shravanam, chanting, Kirtanam, remembering, Vishnu Smaranam, serving, Pada Sevanam, worship of the deity, Archanam, praying, Vandanam, carrying out orders, Dasyam, serving him as a friend, Sakyam, and sacrificing everything for the Lord, Atmanivedanam. Although each process appears distinct, when one is situated on the absolute platform, he can see that they are identical. For instance, hearing is as good as chanting, and remembering is as good as chanting or hearing. Similarly, engaging in deity worship is as good as chanting, hearing, or remembering. The devotee is expected to accept all 9 processes of devotional service, but even if only one process is properly executed, he can still attain the highest position, Paramahamsa, and go back home, back to Godhead. Questions, comments so far? No? Okay, we'll go.
নিজ কৃত্য করি পূজারি করিল শয়ন, স্বপনে ঠাকুর আসি বলিলা বচন।
Finishing his daily duties, the priest went to take rest. In a dream, he saw the Gopinath deity come to talk to him, and he, capital H, he spoke as follows.
উঠো হোক পূজারি, করো দ্বার বিমোচন, ক্ষীর এক রাখিয়াছি সন্ন্যাসী কারণ।
Please get up and open the door of the temple. I have kept 1 pot of sweet rice for the sannyasi Madhavendra Puri.
ধরার অঞ্চলে ঢাকা এক ক্ষীর হয়, তোমরা না জানিলা তাহা আমার মায়ায়।
This pot of sweet rice is just behind my cloth curtain. You did not see it because of my tricks.
মাধবপুরী সন্ন্যাসী আছে হাটেতে বসিনা, তাহাকে তো এই ক্ষীর শীঘ্র দেহ লনা।
A sannyasi named Madhavendra Puri is sitting in the vacant marketplace. Please take this pot of sweet rice from behind me and deliver it to him.
স্বপ্ন দেখি পূজারি উঠি করিলা বিচার, স্নান করি কপাট খুলি মুক্ত কইল দ্বার।
Awakening from the dream, the priest immediately rose from bed and thought it wise to take a bath before entering the deity's room. He then opened the temple door. Why do you think he thought it wise? Anyone?
He's going into the temple room
So
to is
One has to be clean internally, externally before going even enter
so
the
when
baby
you
room.
when you sleep, sometimes that becomes
Contaminated.
Okay, good. Thank you.
ধরা আঁচল তলে পাইল সেই ক্ষীর স্থান লেপি ক্ষীর লনা হইল বাহির।
According to the deity's directions, the priest found the pot of sweet rice behind the cloth curtain. He removed the pot and mopped up the place where it had been kept. He then went out of the temple.
দ্বার দিয়া গ্রামে গেলা সেই ক্ষীর লনা হাটে হাটে বুলে মাধবপুরী কে চাহিনা।
Closing the door of the temple, he went to the village with the pot of sweet rice. He called out in every stall in search of Madhavendra Puri.
ক্ষীর লহ এই যার নাম মাধবপুরী তোমা লাগি গোপীনাথ ক্ষীর কইল চুরি।
Holding the pot of sweet rice, the priest called, "Will he whose name is Madhavendra Puri please come and take this pot? Gopinath has stolen this pot for you." Purport. The difference between the absolute truth and relative truth is explained here. Lord Gopinath has openly declared herein that he is a thief. He had stolen the pot of sweet rice, and this was not kept a secret because his act of stealing is a source of great transcendental bliss. In the material world, theft is criminal, but in the spiritual world, the Lord's stealing is a source of transcendental bliss. Mundane rascals who cannot understand the absolute nature of the personality of Godhead sometimes call Lord Sri Krishna immoral. But they do not know that his seemingly immoral activities, which are not kept secret, afford pleasure to the devotees. Not understanding the transcendental behavior of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, these rascals slur his character and immediately fall into the category of miscreants, rascals, lowest among men, demons, and those whose knowledge is taken away by the illusory energy. Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, Namam duskritino mudha prapadyante naradhama mayaya pahrita jnana asuram bhavam ashrita. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. Mundane rascals cannot understand that whatever Krishna does, being absolute in nature, is all good. This quality of the Lord is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto. One may consider certain acts of a supremely powerful person to be immoral by mundane calculations, but this is not actually the case. For example, the sun absorbs water from the surface of the earth, but it does not absorb water only from the sea. It also absorbs water from filthy sewers and ditches containing urine and other impure substances. The sun is not polluted by absorbing such water. Rather, the sun makes the filthy place pure. If a devotee approaches the Supreme Personality of Godhead for an immoral or improper purpose, he nonetheless becomes purified. The Lord does not become infected. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that if one approaches the Supreme Lord even out of lust, anger, or fear, kamam, krodham, bhayam, he is purified. Bhagavatam 10:29-15. The gopis, being young girls, approached Krishna because he was a beautiful young boy. From the external point of view, they approached the Lord out of lust, and the Lord danced with them at midnight. From the mundane point of view, these activities may appear immoral because a married or unmarried girl cannot leave home to mix with a young boy and dance with him. Although this is immoral from the mundane viewpoint, the activities of the gopis are accepted as the highest form of worship because it was Lord Krishna whom they approached with lusty desires in the dead of night. But these things cannot be understood by non-devotees. One must understand Krishna in tattva, truth. One should use his common sense and consider that if simply by chanting Krishna's holy name one is purified, how then can the person be immoral? The person Krishna be immoral? Unfortunately, mundane fools are accepted as educational leaders and are offered exalted posts for teaching irreligious principles to the general populace. This is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam 7.531. Andhaya tandhaya rupaniyamana. Blind men are trying to lead other blind men. Due to the immature understanding of such rascals, common men should not discuss Krishna's pastimes with the gopis. A non-devotee should not even discuss his stealing sweet rice for his devotees. It is warned that one should not even think about these things. Although Krishna is the purest of the pure, mundane people thinking of Krishna's pastimes that appear immoral themselves become polluted. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu therefore never publicly discussed Krishna's dealings with the gopis. He used to discuss these dealings only with 3 confidential friends. He never discussed Rasa Leela publicly as the professional reciters do, although they do not understand Krishna or the nature of the audience. However, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu encouraged the public chanting of the holy name on a huge scale for as many hours as possible. Can we go back to the beginning of that purport? Thank you. So a question for you is, how did Gopinath, why did he steal this the sweet rice or the kheer?
That's a good question.
Huh?
That's a good question. It was offered to him. And if it's offered to him, he has a full right. Everything belongs to him.
Okay. So,
Well, after offering, usually we take off the plate. So before they take off the plate out, he stole it to fulfill the desire of his pure devotee.
how did he know? How did he know what Madhavendra Puri's desire was?
Krishna knows everything.
Ah,
He's within everybody's heart. He's Paramatma, all that.
so he knew what Madhavendra Puri was thinking in his desire. So you know so here Lord Gopinath, the deity of Lord Gopinath as Krishna is all-knowing, and he knew the desire of Madhavendra Puri, not for his sense gratification, but for his service of the Lord. So he's helping Madhavendra Puri in his service of the Lord, and even doing so, he appears to be a thief stealing this pot of kheer. Are there other circumstances where Krishna does things that seem immoral, but they're actually glorified by devotees?
God
What
mentioned here dancing with a gopi and married and unmarried girls in the middle of the night.
Yes. So for in Vedic culture particularly, just for a unmarried girl to go out and stay someplace else in the middle of the night, that was impossible. She would never be able to get married. And what to speak of a married woman? But Lord Krishna, we find in the Brahma Samhita, Chintamani prakara sadmasu kalpa vriksha lakshavritesu surabir abhipalyantam Lakshmi sahasra shata sambrama sevyamanam Govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. Krishna is herding the cows, and in the spiritual world, he is served with great reverence and affection, not just by one Lakshmi or one Gopi, but hundreds and thousands of Lakshmis and Gopis, because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And every one of us is his servant, man, woman, child, old person, everyone are eternal servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in that sense, knowing that everyone belongs to Krishna, you and I all belong to Krishna. And the problem is we usually forget that. That's the main problem. So that's one good example. Thank you. Other examples?
Ranchod.
Ranacho, you tell me about that.
Should I tell?
Yeah, say.
Oh, okay. With the war fighting with Jarasandha, and we brought Jarasandha brought several, I think 18 times he tried to attack. So one day he came with large army in partnership with who that demon, Narakasur. No, I'm sorry, I'm missing. Anyway, it was large number, and he said to protect the residents of Mathura. He attempted this plan. He appeared like as if running away from the scene, but for the protection of the citizens. So he accepted this name because running away from the war battlefield for a Kshatriya is very much condemned. But still, for his devotees, he accepted this name.
Yeah, for many different reasons. One reason was that. One reason is because there was another person, another demon attacked Mathura simultaneously. Jarasandha was there attacking, and also from the west came Kalayavana.
Oh, Caitanya.
Kalayavana. So both they attacked. So Krishna took off. And as you mentioned, for Kshatriya, to run away from the battle is like that's as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, for one who is dishonor is worse than death. That people will say that you're not fighting because of cowardice. So that's worse than death. But here Krishna is ready to take that position. Why? Well, as you mentioned, for the protection of the citizens, but also because he had a plan to marry Rukmini at that time. So, and not only that, and in addition, he was when he ran away from the battle, he was followed by Kalayavana. He thought, who is this? Kalayavana thought, who is this? I'll catch this rascal Krishna. So Lord Krishna ran into a cave, and Kalayavana followed him into the cave. In the cave, of course, it was not illumined, it was dark. And as Kalayavana came in, he stumbled over some body, and he thought, oh, this is Krishna who's hiding, and I've found him. And so then he was about to try to kill the body on the floor of the cave, but actually that wasn't Krishna. That was a devotee named Muchukunda, who had a benediction from the demigods that he could sleep as long as he wanted to, because he had been fighting on their behalf. And he said, after fighting so valiantly, they gave him a benediction. What do you want? He was so tired. He said, let me sleep undisturbed. Anybody who disturbs me, before I'm ready, then I can, just by my glance, they'll be burned to ashes. So Kalyavana inadvertently kicked that body, thinking of Krishna, and Muchukunda opened his eyes and burned Kalyavana to ashes. So then Muchukunda got the benediction of the association of Lord Krishna. So Ranachorai, yes, Ranachorai. There's others. We know we know the Damodar Lila is also Krishna stealing makkanchor, you say, right? Makkanchor. There's also other things. Sometimes people become discouraged. They say, there's a picture of Nrsimhadev with Hiranyakashipu on his lap, ripping him apart. And there's entrails draping over his on Lord Nrsimhadev's body, and people say this is ghastly. How this is awful. How can that be God? But they don't realize that anyone who's killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead gets wonderful benediction. They get liberation.
Also in the Battle of Kurukshetra, when the cart, when the Karna was stuck in the mud, Krishna ordered Arjuna to kill him, because according to rules, they're not supposed to kill an armed soldier.
Yes. Many examples during the Battle of Kurukshetra. There was one where Duryodhana became frustrated because he had grandfather Bhishma, who he considered the greatest warrior, on his side. He thought because of Bhishma's affection for the Pandavas, he was being soft in his fight. And so he was critical. He began criticizing grandfather Bhishma. So grandfather Bhishma, being a Kshatriya, he said, okay, you see these 5 arrows? I've given them particular mantras. With these 5 arrows, tomorrow in the battle, I will kill all 5 Pandavas. And you keep them with you. You keep these 5 arrows with you, and you give them tomorrow, then you have safekeeping, and I will use them for their particular purpose. So Krishna, being omniscient, he knew what was going on. So he told Arjun, this was in the evening time, he said, Arjun, Duryodhana has in his possession 5 arrows that Bhishma Dev is going to use to kill you and your brothers tomorrow. You go there to the Kauravas camp, and Duryodhana will ask you if you want anything in charity, and you ask for those 5 arrows. So Arjun did that. Arjun went to see Duryodhana, and Duryodhana said, my dear cousin brother, whatever you like, I'll give, even if you want me to give you back your kingdom without fighting, that's fine. And Arjun said, no. Just, I think you have 5 arrows in your possession. I'll take those 5 arrows. So Duryodhana gave those 5 arrows. So when Bhishma Dev found out, Duryodhana was mad again. Bhishma Dev found out, he said, okay. So that plan didn't work. So tomorrow, I will definitely kill Arjun, or else, unless Krishna breaks his promise and engages in the fighting, unless Krishna particularly protects him. Do you remember this, right? So in the battle the next day, Bhishma was fighting so strongly. Arjun's chariot his weapons were gone. He was just about to kill Arjun, and Krishna intervened to save his devotee. He had promised not to fight. But he intervened in that way. So for that reason, he's called Bhakta Vatsal. More important than his own promise was to save and protect his devotee. Other things. Krishna, God is all good, absolute. That's sometimes hard for us to understand, especially when difficult things happen to us. Kunti Devi said, Janma Ishvarya Shruti Shribir Edamana Badapuman. Oh Krishna, you are not easily approached by those people who are full of attachments to material wealth, good birth, education. But you please make difficulties come, because when I am faced with difficulties, then I remember you more. So God is good. Sometimes goodness is shown by his giving us challenges. So that's still his goodness. So we can increase our remembrance of him.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Is that Mother Vatsala?
Yes, humble pranam. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for this lecture. Prabhu, I have a question. If Krishna is supposed to be equal to everybody with the devotees, and wasn't he supposed to be equally giving his dharmic act for Bhishma and also Arjuna? Why was he siding with Arjuna?
Krishna says he's equal to everybody, but he's especially protecting his devotees. A rich man will have many. He will be generous to everyone, but particularly give special concern and protection to his own children. Like that. That's how it's explained.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. When you were talking about Kunti Devi, you said when somebody is attached to wealth or material, and when they have attachments, he's difficult to be attained. So family relationships, are those also attachments? Do those also make it very difficult for us to approach and reach Krishna?
Yeah, it depends on those kinds of family attachments.
Because generally we tend to say, we're born in this material world, so we're going to be attached. That's just the way it is. And we tend to think that people who are attached to material wealth, like wealth and property and money and gold, we tend to think of those as being bad, but family and relationships and that is good. And so are those also attachments? Are those also to be worked
So
out?
later in Kunti Devi's prayer, we were talking, I was quoting Mother Kunti. She says, Tvayi me nanya vishaya mate madhupate sakrit. She says that, oh Lord Krishna, please remove the attachments even to my family members, so that my attachment to you can grow without, and my just like a river entering the ocean, my attachment to you will flow without any impediments. So attachments with one's family, and of course Kunti Devi's family, Arjun, Yudhishthir, Pandava, they were great devotees. But anyway, she's giving example there. The family attachments can be an obstacle if by family attachments it deviates one from Krishna consciousness. But by one has a duty to perform to the family, and one's job is to encourage all family members to be Krishna conscious. Rishabdev said, Guru na sasyat, janani na sasyat. There's a whole verse, I don't know the whole verse, but he says nobody should become a father, mother, guru, king, or even friend without the intention of delivering one's charges from the path of birth and death. So that's a big order. So generally, if the family attachments hinder excessively one's progress in devotional service, then yeah, they're detrimental. And of course,
Prabhu,
one has to be careful about that. One has to be careful about that, because one cannot give up family responsibilities whimsically, but one should make it a sincere attempt to continue to engage in devotional service despite the difficulties. But at the same time, it might be, if it's too much of an obstacle, it might be given up or minimized or reduced.
may I interrupt, Prabhu? Vasla?
Yes, yes.
Along the same line with the attachment to the family. If for some reason Krishna removes some of the obstacles to you because of the love that you hold for Krishna, and you want to do some service, either any of the 9 devotional services or path, do we, even though we love our family, everybody in the family, children, grandchildren, husband, everybody, do we focus on Krishna? Whatever it is given by Krishna, it is a prasadam for you in this lifetime. Whatever comes to your life, either miseries or sukham or dukkam, you accept it as Krishna's prasadam, gift from Krishna. So then you still keep on moving along your path. No matter what happens in your life, Krishna is behind everything, and he's going to protect you and take care of you. That conviction that you have, or vairagyam you have, that you go on, but you still care for your family and love them and pray for them for their well-being. Could we take it as such, or could we go along the path?
Well, that's a certain philosophy. The beginning of devotional service is to have a spiritual master, a guru, and the details of how to deal with the world and how to deal with whether it's a business, job, family, emotional situations, dealing with others. I mean, the details of that is going to be help. You're going to get help with that from a spiritual master, guru, and one will get a guru not just by chance, but by particularly endeavoring to approach a guru and ask for spiritual knowledge. That's why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upidakshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. So the exact situation with the family is sometimes family involvement. Even though you love your family very much, it can get you into trouble. What to speak of family? Bharat Maharaj was a renunciant, and he developed an attachment to a deer, not even a human being, but a deer, a pet deer, and it got him into trouble. He got his next life. He was thinking of the deer at the time of death, and became a deer in his next life. So attachments can be challenging, and they can lead us. We have to be very careful. So the details of how to manipulate and how to use your relationships in Krishna service, that that's an individual thing that one should discuss with devotees and with spiritual master, and look in the shastras for that. But the family attachment can be a cause of liberation or a cause of bondage. Mahat sevam dvaram ahur vimukte. By serving great souls, the path of liberation is open, wide open. Dvaram means the door to liberation is wide open. So if your family members are great souls, actual devotees, then by engaging in their service, that's one that you get attachment and open to path back to Godhead. But otherwise, it can be, and it's usually in the middle somewhere, but it can be a cause of a bondage. So one has to be very careful. And our first priority in this life, priority number 1, is Krishna consciousness. That's what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam bhaja. Aham tam sarva papebhyo mokshayashyami ma sucha. There's many dharmas. We have a family dharma. We have occupational dharma. We have, a national dharma. All kinds of dharmas we have. And Arjuna was thinking, oh, my family dharma is more important than service to Krishna. But Krishna, in the end, he understood. He said, no. Top priority, number 1 priority, is service to Krishna. And by serving Krishna, the idea is that all other dharmas will be taken care of properly. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam braja.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
I don't know. Is it time? Is it time now? Oh, it's not almost. It's past 8:45. I'm sorry. I apologize for the going over time.
No apologies. This is nectar.
So Krishna was Krishna. People criticize Krishna. They think, oh, Krishna. There's a Krishna in Kurukshetra, and that Krishna is different than the one who's in Vrindavan. We don't want to deal with the one in Vrindavan because he was doing all kinds of things that we don't want to deal with. But Krishna in Kurukshetra, that's better. Or Krishna in Dwarka, that's better. But it's all the same Krishna. Krishna's whether he's in Kurukshetra or in Vrindavan, are the same personality of Godhead. They're all, and all his activities are good, absolute good for everybody. Hare Krishna.
Visnugada Prabhu, a quick, if you could please maybe just say something about the point about hearing the intimate pastimes with the gopis. I know that sometimes we come across, groups of devotees that may want to focus on that. I guess because of Srila Prabhupada, that influence in ISKCON maybe isn't really so much, but sometimes in other Vaishnav groups, the focus may be there. And sometimes they may say that, this is the highest and therefore you should come, this is what you should be doing because this is the highest. If you want the highest realization, this is what you should be doing. Maybe you could reinforce this.
So we take example from Lord Caitanya, who, as mentioned, Lord Caitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his specific, one of his missions is to exhibit and to give example of how to be a devotee of Krishna. And he didn't discuss these things only with Ramananda Roy, Swarup Damodar, and Sikhi Mahiti. That's it. These things were discussed. So he's showing how to be Krishna conscious for everybody. As you said, sometimes people say, well, Srila Prabhupada, and I don't even like to say it out loud, but he was teaching people the basics, and then now people are going to they have higher realizations. Srila Prabhupada had all the highest realizations of anyone, but usually you'll find that when people have a more attraction to hearing the intimate pastimes of Krishna, is that we wonder if they're following basic principles. Srila Prabhupada, when he found out in Los Angeles that there were devotees who were not reading Bhagavad Gita, but focusing primarily, or not exclusively, but primarily on the pastimes of the gopis, he became enraged. And he said, first you must deserve and then desire. And it's a fact that most of those devotees became deviated. So we need to remember following those basic principles is the bedrock of our Krishna consciousness. And then if one makes progress by the mercy of the spiritual master, by serving the spiritual master diligently, regularly, with great care and attention, then at some point we'll get that approach to understand those pastimes. But it's not something that we're going to be talking about publicly for classes like this. We started, first canto. Srila Prabhupada said everything you need to know is in the first canto, actually. Srimad Bhagavatam. So, and, but he gave the Krishna book, and one of the reasons he gave Krishna book was it's written in such a way that you won't forget that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that he's not an ordinary man like you or me. Even big swamis and yogis, they after thinking of Krishna's pastimes, they like to imitate Krishna, and become a Krishna and have their rasa dance. It's very, very common, very common. So to avoid that, it's a very dangerous thing, in public particularly. We chant the holy names, as Prabhupada said, as many hours as possible, and leave the discussion of those other pastimes to intimate circles only, not with generally. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Visnugada Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Is that a question or no?
It's just,
Oh, okay.
it wasn't a question.
Oh, okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha
Kapatarubhyascha kripasinubhya
Sindhubhyeva
evacha.
Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you. Have a good day. Thanks.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.